Welcome, creepy clowns, creepy dummies, creepy staircases, and creepy fake angels, to episode 399 of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 14th of April, 2021, and featuring The God Complex, written by Toby Whithouse, and starring Matt Smith as a doctor, Karen Gillian as Amy Pond, and Arthur Darvill as Rory Williams. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and I'm happy to have Wi-Fi working functionally after the past 3 days with barely any. With me are Randy Ronson McCulloch.
You know, it's annoying when the episode you're reviewing is a better Amy and Rory departure episode than the one they actually got.
Mad Matt Winchell.
Tonight I'll be trying out sugar-free Pepsi Mango.
And Thomas Fireheart.
I couldn't decide on a Shining reference, so oh well.
Here's Thomas. And in case you think I was kidding, here we go. First sip.
So, how's everybody's week been?
Not too bad.
Ended
up
it
having
tastes
to
like
work.
regular mango. Good.
Ended up doing an extra shift yesterday at work, which thankfully there wasn't as many people as I thought there would be, because it was sort of full on, but only because it's school holidays at the moment. But yeah, thankfully, I guess that's something that I don't think I've brought up yet, is that my state had a 3-day lockdown, I think 2 weeks ago now. And as a result, we've been wearing masks for the past 2 weeks. I think today is the day that we have to stop, the mandatory mask wearing is over, unless they've
Backtread.
yeah, unless they've extended it, but
Thomas, I have exactly zero sympathy.
yeah.
We've been under mandatory masks now for probably about a year.
Well, I'm mainly surprised that people were actually doing it, because I'm I'm in the hick part of the state, so you would think that they'd just be a bunch of people being like, "No, fuck that, I'm not going to do that." But I think that's part of why it's not as busy as it could be, because there are a lot of people who are like, "Well, I don't want to do it, but I also don't want to be fined $200, so I'm just not going to go out."
I don't think my area has kept it mandatory for a better part of half a year at this rate. And they even officially updated the sign at my local grocery store that they're not forcing people to mask.
No.
But they do request that if you feel like it's necessary, do continue masking and keeping distant from people, etc.
Madison's been under a mandatory for ages. They have now only started making exceptions if you are inoculated.
I don't know about other parts of Ohio, but I know pretty much every business around Athens has had sign warnings and related warnings since I moved here, including this week.
Mm-hmm.
My general thing was that I was pissed that it took them this long to get us to wear masks, because half the time last year at work I was like, I really feel like we probably should be, but we haven't been told to, so I guess I won't bother. And now it's a year too late, but whatever.
Means that you suddenly had a spike in cases.
So they wanted to stifle that spike before it became a problem.
Yeah. Well, it was more nipping it in the bud before it became a good number of cases. I think it was there was only a handful of cases, and they were all people coming into state, which I just want to fucking strangle those people. But there was no new cases within the state, but it was still okay, nip this in the bud now before it becomes a problem.
Interesting to note that your state is apparently as isolated as my town.
Well, I mean, we're one of the my state is like, I don't know what, like the trying to think, like the northern third of the entire East Coast. So like, it's bigger than any state in the United States, I'll say that much. From here to my state capital, in the US, you could probably drive through like 4 or 5 states.
I would agree with you, at least on mainland states. Is it bigger than Alaska?
More than likely. I'll check. But let's see. I mean, Australia is generally, if you actually like put them side to side, there isn't much actual difference between Australia and the US. It's just that we have a far less population density, so we don't need as many states.
A lot
and
of the U.S. doesn't have much population density either, but there are more states in order to rig the Senate.
Also, more states due to constant fighting about where things begin and end.
Like the only reason there's 2 Dakotas is to rig the Senate.
There's lots of really bizarre excuses as to why things still are the way they were laid out here in this country.
Okay. The total. Let's see.
Which state are you in?
Queensland. So let's see. Alaska's
Queensland's
about
area.
like 1.7 million square Ks.
Yeah,
My home state is my home state is smaller than Alaska, but it's bigger than any other US state. Like it's about.
Don't you dare say that to a Texan.
Texas could fit in my state like several times over. I mean, like this. I'll put it this way: Australia's states are such that basically the entire West Coast is a state. So, like, it's just the western third of the continent is its own state. So,
how many square kilometers is your state?
Oh yeah, you've got Australia beat by like almost twice.
Oh wait, it's flipped, so I was fucking it up. Yes, Queensland is bigger than Alaska. What am I on?
Yeah, it's
Alaska. Alaska's like 1.7 million square kilometers. My home state is 1.8.
So it's still smaller than the biggest state in Canada, which I'm gonna pronounce this wrong. Nunavut. One of those 3.
And here's the thing: Queensland's only the second largest state in Australia.
Well, yeah. Again, as I said, like Western Australia is literally like the entire western third of the continent. So,
Yeah,
and again, if you look at the population, it would be like fuck all.
You've got 6 states, 7 if you count Tasmania. I don't know if it technically is considered its own state or if it's part of
resisting urge to sing song.
Yes.
We have 6 states and 2 territories, because there's Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, Tasmania, Western and South Australia. And then there's the Northern Territory and the Australian Capital Territory. So 8 total, but one's essentially like Washington D.C.
Yeah, I
and the
wasn't
other
counting
is
that.
Northern Territory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was looking at the divider, and yes, there's this one little tiny little hole right in the middle of another location, making it kind of like freaking Vatican City or San Marino, where they're a country completely surrounded by another country.
And that was even just done because like Queensland and New South Wales were bitching over who got the honours. So they just figured, fuck it, we'll just carve out this little circle and it'll be its own thing.
Yeah, but at least with Washington, D.C., they put it on the border between two states. So it doesn't look like, there's a hole in your state. Doesn't look like somebody fired a gun at your state.
Hey, at least it's not buckshot.
I don't think Australians know what a gunshot looks like anymore.
I mean, we do have guns, just not guns.
I thought the emus took them all.
You would think they would have, given they won.
Its name is Horus!
I'm mixing up my Australian historical events, I think.
Yeah, and if the movies taught us anything, y'all just kill crocs with Bowie knives. Anyway, before we get any more offensive...
The most eventful thing of my week is getting
all
kicked out
offense of my foot. It's good-natured ribbing.
Shitty Wi-Fi networks. Had to take classes from my kitchen table for a few days.
I'm 16 hours into Stardew Valley now. It's taking me roughly 8 hours a season.
And I spent yesterday detoxing from over-caffeinating myself on Monday.
Shame.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't horribly over-caffeinated, but Aaron decided we wanted to taste test the Dr. Pepper Zero sugar. And I had too big of a glass of that after I had already had a can of Diet Dr. Pepper earlier that day. So I did not sleep at all Monday night. And then finally came down on Tuesday, and I'm like, Fortunately, Tuesday is my actual day off. I have no streams, no podcasts, no games, nothing.
Tuesday is not my 4-hour streamathon.
So while I was going to play Conan Exiles on Tuesday, I decided not to. I decided sleep better.
I will say, though, that the first half of my stream of Stardew Valley this week was rough. For a reason, all day Tuesday, I could go for a nap. It wasn't until about halfway through the stream where I'm like, I'm no longer almost nodding off while walking across the map. Hi, everybody.
I can tell you, for me, it was kind of a Zoidberg moment where it was like 4 p.m. on Tuesday, and it's like, oh my God, I'm coming down.
Oh my God.
I thought that's a Mr. Popo moment.
Always squares make a circle. Always squares make a circle. Tommy, tell me I can leave.
Anyway, on tonight's show, we've got birthdays. We have some news, though nothing big. Do we have Geek Talk?
One bit from me.
One bit of Geek Talk. I've already got the cover of it up.
Nobody's up on the soapbox this week.
Nope. The people aren't pissing us off as much this week. Yay!
Could just be that we've been ignoring them.
I could rant about fans of Falcon and Winter Soldier again, but I feel like I'm just tired at this point.
I feel like we've covered that, or did they do something new?
Apparently they might have put hands on them.
Basically, violence fetishists.
Oh, joy. A new level of horrible fandom that we can just live without, please. Thank you.
Although, actually, I think somebody mentioned this part last week, glorifying things that characters and actions that are not meant to be glorified.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to go into any farther into that.
Oh, I did forget to mention, I did spend my uptime reading Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep.
That's
Nice.
one I mean to get around to one of these days.
AKA Blade Runner, the book.
Well, I wouldn't call it that.
Outside of like a few borrowed things here and there, including names, not really.
They lifted part of the plot line, but then they deconstructed the world and reconstructed it differently for the movie. So that's...
Yeah, the original story is a little too layered and thick for trying to squeeze it all into 1 hour and a half long movie.
And it's not even... No, it's not really. It's only 21 chapters, but it's more depressing than the movie. I'm serious. If they had made that book directly into a movie, Matt, it would be a Suicide Saturday candidate.
Don't make me try and fail to do an Alan Rickman.
Oh, it was... I finished reading that and I'm just like, oh, God. Anyway, my other podcast is going to do a review of that in a week, so I wanted to get that read.
That's why you sat down with it. Gotcha.
Yeah, I never know how long it's going to take me to read a book. Whether I can just eat it or whether I have to keep stopping and coming back to it. This one I just ate. And then and then at the end of it, when I get to the ending, I'm just like, oh my.
Oh,
yeah, that's what happens when you eat a book with the cover. Gives you indigestion.
I don't know.
Blood.
All that pulp keeps my appendix going. Anyway, at the end of it, we have our episode review, our final thoughts, and our ratings. So let's move on to birthdays. First birthday was on April 9th. And is the birthday of Neve McIntosh, who played Madame Vastra from 2011 to 2014. She turned 49. Next, on the 13th, we have the birthday of Peter Davison, who played the Doctor from 82 to 84. He turned 70. And boy, would I love to have been a fly on the wall for that birthday party. And then today, the 14th, is the birthday of Peter Capaldi, who played the Doctor from 2014 to 2017. He turned 63.
How is that already so long ago?
It has been. Technically speaking, we have had this Doctor since 2018. It's just been one of those things where they do a series, then they don't do a series, then they do a series. Also, the same year, or same day, is the birthday of Terrence Dix, who was a script editor from 69 to 74 and a writer from 69 to 83. He would have been 86, but died in 2019 at the age of 84. Yes, Terrence Dix was one of those script editors that would occasionally break the rules and write an episode and just not get credited as script editor. Or occasionally not get credited as writer.
He didn't care. He was just having fun.
Well, no.
At least I assume, though, he still got paid for it, even if he was using pseudonyms.
Yeah, it was mostly the fact that, they would need somebody or they would get a script so badly that he would have to script edit it so much he basically rewrote it.
Yeah.
Which was frequently an issue with Doctor Who.
I think in one instance with I think he was script edited by the time of he did the War Games, and I think that was more, we need a script, we don't have any time to hire anyone, go.
And that was one where he wasn't credited as script editor, he was credited as writer. Where I think they just didn't have a script editor that particular
This thing is terrible. Here's the basic idea. Let's not go rewrite it, please. Bye.
And Terrence Dix is also responsible for, there's too many for me to count here, but it looks like well over 60 Target novelizations.
Oh, he was the Target guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he helped novelize a lot of them by looks of this.
It's like the writer doesn't want to touch it anymore. Terrence, go to town. and he just cranked out those Target books. He was huge at it.
I was going to try to count how many, but I realized you'd probably be halfway through the podcast by the time I did.
Yeah.
Actually, the picture I have of him some of them on the picture here. So, the Underworld, Horrifying Rock.
Yeah, I hear Target books cried when Terrence Dix died because that meant that they would not have any go-to guys for novelizations anymore.
Right.
Mm.
The Giant Robot and Three Doctors.
Anyway, moving on to news. Billy Piper talked to Total Film Magazine and was asked whether she had any plans or would in the future plan to return to Doctor Who. And she said no. So people that have been speculating that anything that's leading up to a Billy Piper return can just basically go back to their little fan cubby and sob now, because yeah.
I think a large motivation for that question are the people that have been saying, "Oh, Billy Piper should be the next Doctor" for the past 5-10 years.
Yeah,
You
I
don't
don't
need
know about
companions
that.
to come back as doctors.
Yeah. Anyway, she basically said, "I couldn't. It's so much work. It's the face of a family show, and that's a lot of responsibility that I'm not comfortable with." So Billy Piper's had her run. She came back, in 2009, came back in 2013. She is done.
Yeah.
So that's basically all we need to know about that piece of news.
Right.
In other news, Doctor Who is once again on the Hugo list this year for Fugitive of the Jadoon, which, to be honest, I thought there were better episodes that season.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I see it's up against two very popular episodes of The Mandalorian.
Oh, yeah.
Mando's gonna win.
Yeah, that's gonna. Well, it's kind of hard to tell with the Hugo people. But let's see. The finalists are The Good Place, Whenever You're Ready, which I have not seen.
Never heard of
The
it.
Expanse, Gargamella. The Expanse is actually pretty popular.
I have heard about The Expanse, but I can't say I've seen anything.
Yeah, I think it's on Amazon Prime. The Mandalorian, The Rescue. Oh God, yeah, that's the finale for season 2.
Yep, that's a win. Goodbye, everybody.
13, The Jedi. I think that was the one with Ahsoka. So that's also popular. And parts 1 and 2 of Heart from She-Ra, Princess of Power. So
wasn't that over a year ago?
No, I think I think it's running together. I think that got over early last year, but not early enough to get last year's Hugos.
Because the nominations would have started pretty early, so it was probably during nomination season if it was early.
Yeah, I think it was like May or June.
I could have sworn it was earlier than that, but maybe I'm mistaken.
Not for the very last season. All right, and then of course Fugitive of the Jadoon. So
yeah, good luck trying to outdo Mando this year. That was a can't stop talking about thing. Fiasco or no fiasco.
So the Hugo Awards will be presented at DisCon 3 in Washington, D.C., which takes place between December 15th and 19th. So, wow, there's a good several months.
Yeah, that's pretty early to be calling these out, but okay.
Yeah.
And the She-Ra episodes we're talking about aired in May, so it would have only been 11 months ago.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, I thought it was May or June.
I could have sworn it was like 20 or like before 2020 that it was done, but apparently I'm wrong. I don't remember for sure.
No. Are you sure you're not thinking of Voltron?
No, I knew Voltron was well done before that.
Okay. Moving on to new releases from Big Finish.
Oh, there's a Big Finish?
What?
Oh, wow, yeah, I completely missed out on the Big Finish stuff. Okay.
Released this week is Doctor Who: The Lone Centurion, Volume 1, Rome, with Arthur Darvill, Joanna Van Kampen, and Terry Malloy. Just interesting because Terry Malloy usually plays Davros.
He's played a few other roles. I'm guessing he's playing some sort of Roman leader or nobleman.
Mm-hmm. Also out this week is Dalek Universe, The Dalek Protocol, with Tom Baker, Louise Jameson, and John Leeson. So that would be the Doctor, Leela, and K9.
And probably Nick Briggs.
Probably, if there's Daleks involved, yes. Also released is Doctor Who Dalek Universe 1 with David Tennant, Jane Slavin, and Joe Sims, who are playing members of the space agency. Well, other than Tennant, who's playing the Doctor. I think Jane Slavin is playing Anya Kingdom.
I'm guessing related to Sarah Kingdom.
I think so. I mean, she was, I think, supposed to be from the space agency, too. But yeah. It's basically First Doctor stuff, only with the 10th Doctor, so. And is tying into this whole mega Dalek universe thing that's apparently their big thing this year. There was nothing I saw as far as a Doctor Who related free download this week. So we will move on to Geek Talk.
Okay, yeah. Kind of just because why not? Like a week ago or so, I got Diablo 3 The Eternal Collection on the Nintendo Switch, and so far I've only played through the wizard story. Like, I assume it's a matter of there's only really slight changes.
Usually in Diablo, yeah. There's only slight changes and a little
Yeah.
bit of dialogue, but the basic story is going to remain the same.
Yeah. But yeah, like it was interesting. Because I had never played a Diablo game before. I knew it existed. It was one of those franchises where I'd probably known it existed since I was in school, but had just never gotten around to playing it, never watched anyone play it, like nothing like that. But yeah, so at this point I was just like, well, it's like half price basically, why not? And yeah, it was fun. Um it was kind of funny because I was half expecting it to be really grindy, but it wasn't at all, really. Like basically I leveled up pretty well just by doing everything, but without it feeling particularly grindy for whatever reason. And I think it is funny though, because I played it on the lowest difficulty to start with just because I had never played it. And then I got the disintegration spell and was like, oh, this is basically just a cakewalk now. I was just blasting through everything. That being said, there are some games where it's like, it's too easy, and so it gets kind of boring. This was more, it was just very cathartic to just like zap like lower enemies like once and they would be dead. um I never died, which given how easy parts of it were on that difficulty would have been very embarrassing. And the one time my health was actually brought all the way like to the point where I was almost going to was like a boss in the air quotes 5th act, which was just like the DLC. I think it was like Rise of the Necromancer thing. Like one boss, I like was like, oh shit, this guy's actually dealing more damage than I was expecting. So I had, because normally there were bosses where I could just stand still, hit him with the disintegration spell for long enough, and like give it like 30 seconds, and I'd probably have won. But this particular one was very meaty, so it was like, oh shit, I actually had to run around and heal myself, and then like, so like it took slightly longer, but it was still just like, oh fuck, that's the only time. Whereas the final boss was like, no, probably had to move around like once or twice. But again, it was one of those weird experiences where I almost thought it was going to be like, oh, that was a bit too easy, but for whatever reason, I never felt that way. I guess it was just because like it was enjoyable enough, and I was basically playing it while watching Critical Role, so my attention wasn't all the way there. Though I kept pausing at any time there was like a cutscene. And yeah, like it'll be interesting to play through with the other things, especially on the other side, because I'm assuming there are some that are flip the perspective you're playing for. I could be wrong, but yeah, it was interesting to dip my toe in, especially when I realized, oh, that's a bit of a coincidence. I bought this, and now they are. I don't know when it's being released, but I know they're apparently working on a. I don't know if it's a remake or just a remastering of Diablo 2.
It's they managed to apparently find the entire code of 2 and now have put it into a completely new framework that completely redoes the graphics engine.
Because I know, the only reason I
because
really
you can
know...
push literally, I think it's like Q you can push, and you can literally swap between what the original looks like and what the new version looks like in Diablo 2 now.
Yeah.
At least for what I've seen. I've seen like 2 people play it, I think.
Yeah. Because the only reason I know the Diablo 2 reworking exists is because like a partnered streamer on Twitch that I was watching was playing, like, I forget if it was an alpha version or a beta version, but it was like a early, like, them being a Twitch partner was what is allowed them to play it at the time. It was like still an early access-y type deal.
I know the VTuber Kiala was trying it out for the first time, and also Asmongold, who's an avid Blizzard player, was trying it out this last week too. And apparently he was forbidden from playing it as a kid because mom decided it was too violent.
Which is funny considering what other games are out there, but yeah. Yeah, generally I'd say it's a interesting jumping on point. I mean, I feel like I'd heard the name Deckard Cain before.
Deckard Cain comes all the way from the first game.
Brought it up a few times too.
Yeah. It's definitely the stay a while and listen guy, right?
Deckard Cain variant of Sean Connery.
I was gonna say it's the stay a while and listen guy, right?
Yes, stay a while and listen.
Because like as soon as he started speaking, I'm like,
let me identify things for you, you little shit. That became a running joke because we kept pestering him so much during 2 to identify stuff that we just started doing his voice with condescending quotes at our player characters. Oh, yes. You want me to identify another sword for you? How about you fuck off? Oh, yeah, while you're out there defeating Diablo and taking his soul stone, why don't you just go and take a long walk off into the lava?
All right, Matt, that's enough.
But yeah. I will say that I like the story of Diablo 3, but I felt it was very easy. Mileage may vary, though.
Yeah. Yeah,
Anyways.
I'd say it's like if people have never played it before, it's worth checking out.
Mm-hmm. So that's about it for Diablo then.
Yep.
And that will take us to the summary, which means I need to pop up the stopwatch.
Also means I need to try to remember everything that happened this episode. Okay.
Not my fault if you can't.
Well, I only watched it a couple hours ago for the first time, but I've watched it a couple hours ago.
All right, Matt, tell me when you're ready.
Okay.
In 3, 2, 1, go.
Alright, so this episode starts off with a character we've never met before. She's apparently a police officer. She's roaming down the halls of this hotel, and she's bumping into weird things in these rooms that's kind of spook her here and there. She is finally at the end accosted by a gorilla before she apparently willingly allows herself to die. Flash forward to the end of the opening credits, and the doctor and companions have also apparently arrived at this hotel. The group decides to have a quick look around and mostly sticks around to the lobby when they are suddenly bumping into another group that seems to be lost in the hotel as well. They decide to join the group as they go to check on apparently a friend of theirs who is in one of the rooms. Apparently all the rooms have some sort of fear that's meant for somebody as they visit this place. And on the way out, the doctor turns off the radio. They go up, they check on the guy. He is apparently in a room full of mannequins that were driving him crazy, but now he's willingly waiting for him to return and is accepting of his fate, apparently. They try to gain some more answers out of him, and they only get vaguities, but it does seem that the place is built to naturally cause people fear and to try and feed off it to a point until something comes to get them. They set up a trap. They manage to get the essentially Minotaur-esque like creature to appear, and the doctor is very roughly able to make out what the creature is saying. Essentially, it is doing what it is doing, but not so willingly. He manages to get the first guy before this, and he goes down. But then, as things progress, the second guy in this group before starts saying phrases like "praise him," which is when they set the trap through a speaker. This is when the doctor finds out the information, and he's trying to figure out a way to try and save everyone else. Essentially, it seems like the place is not after Rory, because Rory doesn't really have any particular faith, so to speak, air quotes, in certain things. Not in a religious sense, but the doctor is putting together that it seems to be attacking almost religious belief in certain things. To this, they do lose the second guy eventually as the Minotaur creature breaks free and comes after him. He willingly accepts the attack and is found unconscious, just basically out of it. Like everything in his body just stops all at once, and he's just got a blank stare. They're trying. The doctor is still trying to piece things together when the lady of the second group also apparently is starting to do the whole praise him thing and willingly accepts being taken out as well. And it's through convincing Amy that he is just a madman in a box and not some sort of godly-esque hero that the doctor is able to save the rest of them from being attacked by the Minotaur creature, cutting off any ability to feed off of their fear and beliefs, and therefore allowing the creature to peacefully die. Basically right there on the spot, and they realize they're in some sort of weird trap thing. They are also allowed to finally get to the TARDIS. Only the last member, an alien of the group that they bumped into, is allowed to finally go back home. And upon returning Amy and Roy to their home, the doctor even leaves behind a car and a couple of other things. And basically in a kind of, I'm trying to save you guys from any kind of more danger, I feel like I took you in a little too far this time, and leaves on his own for a while. And that's pretty much the end.
All right. You did that in 3 minutes, 57 seconds. Although I would also like to mention the fact that the house was new too.
Oh, was the house was new? It's
Yeah, it
so
was new
off board
house,
for
new
me. I'm not
car.
sure what is or isn't.
Here I go, plop you back down on Earth, giving you a whole new life. Go.
Hmm.
All right. So let's talk about what we liked about this episode. And once again, Thomas is first.
Huh.
Forever
Yeah,
first.
the dice just seem to want to flop Bill and Matt around every week, and leave people right up there at the top.
I guess I really like the sets. I mean, it's it's friggin' 80s shining hotel, but still. And I guess it helps the fact that there are so few total that they're able to just put a lot more effort into
What goes into
the
them
few
so much
sets
as
they
what they
have.
look like. Yeah.
Yeah, like if this was a lot more complex a thing, I doubt we would have had like the room where like there's all those dummies on all those friggin' chairs.
Depends on how much they cost.
Yeah. Mm.
You know, I have to see something. Give me just a moment here. I'm popping up my locations guide to Doctor Who.
Oh, should see if this was maybe a location shoot.
Yeah, if they actually got a hotel for this particular bit. Let's see, the God Complex. Yes, it was actually multiple hotels. Reception and the stairs were from the Seabank Hotel in Porthcawl, Cardiff. The restaurant and kitchen, which was where you got all the chairs, were from the Manor Park Hotel in Newport.
Hmm.
But then the hallway and the rooms upstairs were probably just sets.
Yeah, those were done in BBC Studios in Upper Boat.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that was hotel. Corridor bedrooms was done in Studio 6. Hotel corridor was done in Studio 5.
Yeah.
Beauty salon in nearby corridors was done in Studio 2.
In order to shoot in the halls and the bedrooms, you needed a little more like set space in order to work with those, whereas the lobbies, the stairwells, and the kitchens were big enough naturally that you could easily work with them anyway. So big spacious areas, very quick and easy just to borrow a place for maybe a week, and then the rest of it you can just do on set very easily and allow enough movement of camera without having to bump into things.
Well,
and I guess it
they also had to make the damaging ceilings. Whenever the Minotaur would come down.
Oh, that's right. The one would enter the hallways, the hallway.
Yeah.
So
ceilings,
yeah, they needed FX studios for those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I guess in that way it kind of makes sense to use different locations, because the idea is you're not real, because this is supposed to be like a maze of a hotel. So the fact that you can't really tell where the hell they are supposed to be, in that the locations wouldn't even necessarily line up, which I guess is very Shining anyway, because Kubrick didn't really want the hotel to make physical sense in that sense. So trying to do that here makes sense as well.
Yeah, you just brought up the set, so I had to see if any of it was
I had to have a peek, yeah. And yeah, and having a location for some of the bigger rooms is very, very much a cost-saving measure instead of having to build it all.
Could you imagine that restaurant staff when the people came in and just started bringing in ventriloquist dummy after ventriloquist dummy?
Yeah.
Anyway, Bill, what did you like about the episode in general?
So I'm going to say I liked Rita. I know the concept isn't entirely original of a pseudo companion, but RTD used them a lot, whereas Moffat I don't think really used them much at all.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even. I don't. I think the last time we had a character like Rita, unless you count River Song, which I don't, because she's her own barrel of worms, would have been during the specials season. But
The com-
she was a really good foil for the Doctor. She was able to match wits in some way, but she was also a very different character.
Oh, it's Discord again. Sorry, folks.
Ending was
Mhm.
predictable,
There we go.
but as an original character and as one of the few of this type of character that Moffat used, she was really good.
Yep. All right, Matt.
Overall good thing. Actually, I liked the general difference in characters in the group, including the new people. We got some interesting stuff with the weird alien. Not every day you find a race like him, with their particular thing of being constantly conquered, apparently. But then you also have very different
Oh, that
characters.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah, then you also have the very different characters like was Rita is her name again? I forget already. But yeah, the extra people that showed up, yeah, Discord is misbehaving. So sorry, I can't hear you guys right now. But yeah, the new human characters
That's
that they
good,
introduced
yeah.
were very interesting, and sadly, not all of them lasted very long. But for the time on screen, they definitely did something different with each and every one of them, at least.
Okay,
So-
can you hear us again?
Yep, I just heard you again. So hello.
All right.
Discord is
So-
Discord.
What I really liked, I guess, was the fears,
Oh,
and I really wish we could have seen more of.
Mm.
I mean, I've always wondered what was up with the sad clown with the balloon. I understand a fear of clowns. Why that clown in particular?
Why the particularly inoffensive clown? Yeah.
Yeah, that was like the least
Yeah.
offensive clown I've seen, as opposed to, say, Pennywise.
Mm-hmm. Walk into the crowd. Oh, walk into the room, close the door behind them. Oh, hello. Don't talk to the clown.
But yeah, the gorilla. I would have loved to have seen more fears. I would love to have seen a room filled with spiders.
Oh God.
Another one full of snakes. That kind of,
Mhm.
because there had to have been some pretty basic fears in there.
One room is filled with heights, another is filled with holes.
Another one is just on fire. There's one guy sitting in the middle of it. This is all fine.
It just would have been nice to, actually see that and see more of that, because it would have been, cool. As it was, the stuff that we saw was pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We did never get to see the Doctor's fear, but we did hear the cloister bell going off. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what didn't we like, Thomas?
Trying to think if there's an overall aspect.
I could make some jokes about what was in that room, but I won't.
Guess. God, that's weird. I'm kind of blanking. I feel like well, I guess that's just it. I think the problem is I'm not sure if I have overall issues so much as
Specific scenes.
very
Little things,
specific
yeah.
scenes. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll probably just pass and probably do
something
what I've
pops
done
up.
lately, where I've just usually end up piggybacking because someone else jogs my memory.
Mm. So,
All
Bill?
right.
I feel like what I dislike is that this episode it fills the same niche as the episode before, and it's really weird to have them both together. Like they're both there to kind of, just like knock down the myth of the Doctor. Um, they're they both deal with the waiting bit. It feels too similar to have them both back to back. It seems it's a little weird.
Well, I honest to God think that Moffat's just trying to hammer it into your brain.
I do too, and I I think I was thinking that as I watched it, and I just described it in a different way. But I do really feel that Moffat does a lot of that, where he just has an idea and just variations on the same idea over and over.
Mm.
It's like freaking J.K. Rowling in Book 5 of Harry Potter. One chapter, Umbridge is a horrible person. Next chapter, Umbridge is a horrible person. You get to the point where you're just like, okay, we've got the idea. Get on with it.
And if
Get
there's any
on with
doubt
it.
if there's any doubt about the hammering it into your brain thing, they even go with they even start talking about his name to get ready for Trenzalore.
Yeah, that's
very yes, History Channel. We know Hitler was evil. You can talk about something else for a bit now.
Mm-hmm. All right, Matt.
Actually, I feel as interesting as the costume and design was, I feel like the Minotaur-like creature from this episode is very, very weirdly not detailed enough for background for all this setup. Like they do start to pull some of it out and start saying stuff about him as he's dying and stuff, but it's just like there's not enough there. That like how did this whole thing work and why does it even exist?
Oh no, they explained it pretty well.
Really? Because I don't
yeah.
recall that.
They first of all state that he's a relation to the Nyman.
I do recall that bit, and that was a nice callback, but that's about all I got out of that.
But why does the building exist?
Apparently what happened was, like the Nyman, they came down, basically worship me, I'm a god kind of thing, except this time the people got wise. And so they used this building to trap this Nyman-like creature in it. So he couldn't control them anymore.
They
But then they couldn't kill him, so they set it up for the machine to give him a diet of what he needed to live, his own fear, or,
other people's fears?
Or their faith.
Their faith, right.
And that way they could live in peace and, shot it out into space, apparently.
I still argue against the why would you just torture people into dragging them in there to go through that though?
Because you needed a way to capture it, and you don't really care about other people. They're not the Doctor.
Apparently, they're worse assholes than the Nyman are. We're just gonna also randomly sacrifice innocent people at gunshot.
Well, remember what the Nyman does. Hi, I'm the Nyman. I'm an all-powerful god, but I need your help right now. I need you to start sacrificing so many of your best people.
Wait, do the Nyman overact, or was that their slaves?
Their slaves overact.
That was I was gonna say that was the guy
the guy with the staff in particular. Yes.
Yeah. The Nyman with the shitty looking monsters.
The very lumpy looking minotaurs, yes.
Yeah, you got to admit this looked a lot better than the Nyman.
Well, that's a funny thing when they're going specifically for minotaurs, Doctor Who isn't usually that bad. It's just the Nyman were whatever the fuck they were going for, but yeah.
I thought they were minotaurs in a literal labyrinth.
It was a little labyrinth, but they weren't really meant to be like the minotaurs.
They were like, they still had very human limbs and feet, so they weren't trying to commit.
Oh, so you're saying they don't have the
fully?
hoofs? Probably
Yeah.
because the actor would break their neck.
Well,
some of that was
especially
probably
because of the
because
thing-
they couldn't do that costuming wise.
Yeah.
And very top heavy.
Also, I think the Nyman. Oh, I'm trying to remember if that was just before or just after JNT started.
I think it would have been before because it had.
Yeah, it was before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I think it was Tom's like first season.
Yeah, it was
No,
when
it
Douglas
has-
Adams was still.
Actually, no, Lemon was
yeah.
Romana. So
It was Lala
It was
Ward's
right
first
before.
season.
Yeah, it was right
So, like,
before what was supposed
yeah,
to
third
end with
season.
Shada, and then Shada didn't happen
Okay.
until the animated.
And yeah, that
review
was
started.
right after that JNT took over.
Mm.
Okay. So yeah, that was the end of the Graham Williams era. And Graham Williams was kind of not in the best headspace at that time.
I was hoping to find a side by side of the Nyman with this Minotaur, but it doesn't look like that image exists on the internet yet.
No, I doubt it. Unless somebody really wanted to put that out there for some reason. like we said, Nyman was like a vague passing thing, but yeah. I just No, I still feel like the whole explanation behind this creature doing what it's doing and why they set it up for this creature like this is very.
I guess to piggyback off that somewhat, the monster is very superfluous. It feels like it's just sort of, well, I guess we need a monster of the week. What can we do that we haven't done in a while? Ah, Minotaur. Sweet.
Well, no, the monster is not superfluous. The fact that the monster is a minotaur is superfluous.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because,
what
yeah,
it is superfluous, but the fact that it's there is definitely needed in the plot. The way they set up the plot, at least.
Which, I mean, that's just like there didn't need to be a man made out of candy. There didn't need to be vagina plant monsters.
I
could go on.
Saying. Even the BBC is just like, okay, yeah, that was a mistake. That was our costume designer smoking crack. We don't know what's up with that. We apologize. They have officially apologized for that particular monster. And I think even in like one of their quizzes they had online, these particular monsters looked quite rude.
You don't say.
Which, that could be referring to Alpha Centauri.
Yeah, their costume designers have this habit of taking a monster and then after they're done with it going, oh, wow, yeah, that looks vaguely like genitalia. And the other guy goes, there's no vague about it. All right, so are we down to me?
Yeah.
And I mentioned this at the beginning, but what I don't like is the fact that this would have been the perfect departure episode for Amy and Rory.
I said that last week too.
That that they're disillusioned, and I mean he even gives them their own set off to leave, and yet they don't leave.
Yeah.
I mean they technically do for this one, but they're back in 2 weeks. So
yep, in 2 weeks. Well, in 2 weeks' time and space break.
Mm-hmm.
For reasons that only make sense in the mind of Moffat.
And then they turn around, and that means that we've got them again until fricking Angels take Manhattan.
I
Yeah.
don't.
This is my rant.
We don't need an Angels Take Manhattan rant.
I was going to say, please see my rant from 10 years ago.
And I'm basically going to add on to this because this is both the ending is both my favorite and least favorite scene by virtue of the fact that it's like it's a well acted scene, the dialogue's good, but then as it's ending, I'm like, and this would be the perfect fucking send off. But no, we have to fucking we have to absolutely be like, no
Waste
one in
it.
these two eras of the show are allowed to leave. You have to be forced off.
That's a line that could
No,
only
they
be delivered
don't.
in a time zone where it's not midnight right now.
Oh, I could do that too, because nobody in this apartment is currently
Asleep.
Aaron's at work.
Your upstairs neighbors aren't asleep.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, it's just it's so frustrating that at first I'm like, wow, this is actually but this would also be a perfect exit. And Moffat and Russell T did not like letting people leave.
Right.
And that's the other funny thing, because this also could work in the way Sarah Jane left, where she was just kind of gently nudged out of the TARDIS and then never picked up again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not a matter of she wasn't, it's like the Doctor making the decision for them is a way that works. But New Who is like never really had the Doctor just do that.
Yeah,
I mean, outside of Adam, if you count Adam, but
Adam failed.
Yeah.
And therefore had to leave. But anybody else the Doctor is freaking obsessed about and will never just kick them out because
I do want to add a comment to Matt's because I was kind of waiting to see if anybody else mentioned it before I stole it. It's not its own separate point, but I feel like the explanation for the monster kind of defeats the whole setup with the picture frames. Because the Centauran commander's faith wasn't defeat. The lady's fear wasn't, her faith wasn't the gorilla, it was her fear. Maybe the person was in a cult of Daleks, but most of those frames were definitely about fear and not faith.
Yeah, they use the fear to cook up their need for faith, and that's how the creature then gets them.
Mm-hmm.
So the frames are focused on the faith part of it. The frames are focused on the fear part of it.
The frames are focused on trying to enhance your fear.
Mm-hmm.
They're not there for.
That's true. Okay, yeah. If you could see them as they're not there to commemorate. They're there as a means to an end. That makes a sort of sense.
Yes, they're there for a means to an end to spook you further.
Yeah, they're just there, to base the fear further, like a turkey.
Yeah.
I know where this is going.
And I'm not going to say anymore.
To marinate.
Gotta marinate it.
That would lose our family friendly rating.
We have a family.
We have a family
rating.
Do we, Bill? Check your stream. What's it rated at?
Every time there's a check mark that says "not for kids," I check it.
That's okay,
Fuck
then.
the fear turkey.
Exactly. Follow me at the Crimson Fucker. Yes. Okay.
Well, that's out of the way.
Yeah.
I made that reference too, actually, while I was watching this episode.
Oh God! Now our minds are starting to think alike, Matt. I'm frightened now. Sarah and I have that thing where we do that kind of shit all the time, but yeah. Now our minds are doing that. I don't know what to say about that.
I think it was actually, now that I think of it, I think it was them going over the frames for like the third time and just like, yes, we're fucking the fear turkey.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just slow cook this bitch.
That was exactly the thought in my head. I was like, okay, yeah. They're just slowly roasting the fear like a turkey, and then it just, the whole thing went into my head.
I'm going to rotisserie this one.
So yeah, that's the whole thing about the frames. They're not there as trophies. They're there to make you afraid. It's almost like, this man is about to die.
It's literally a bunch of signs saying "Fear me."
Yeah.
No.
All right.
So where were we?
We are up to favorite scenes.
Favorite scenes.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And we can basically skip straight to Matt because I've already.
Oh, yeah, that's
sort
right.
of
You
covered
basically
both.
gave your favorite and worst at the same time.
Favorite and least favorite. So yeah.
So Bill.
All right. So I don't think you'll ever hear me say this again, but I think my favorite scene was the Weeping Angels. I just really like the idea. They go in, they're expecting something they're terrified of, so they face Amy's first monster, and then they get there and it's fake. Why is it okay? It's not real. Cool.
And it's not Amy's fear.
Right.
Yeah, it's actually not Amy's fear.
I love the way they pulled that off.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great way to put a mixture of fear and comedy in there.
Mm-hmm.
I will admit, though, isn't the whole thing like an image of an angel becomes one? So how did they not become real?
Basically, everything from that episode has been forgotten by this point. That's how.
Yeah, like
that's how. Yeah, everything's been forgotten already. The rules have already changed.
Continuity.
If that episode remained in continuity, then the Series 7 Angels episode would be
the end of the universe.
Yeah.
I have pointed this out.
Yes. That I'm sure that got a good 30 minutes in 2012.
Yes, we both pointed this out multiple times. In fact, yes, yeah, that would have been a bit all done.
Theme for our show.
We had issues here.
I didn't say think really hard about Angel continuity. I say it's good as one scene.
But yeah, it was a good little tongue in cheek to go. Oh, it's actually not real angels. Okay, whose fear is this anyways? Because apparently it's not Amy's.
It was
and the guy cowers in the cupboard. Yeah.
Oh, you were.
I was saying in character. Whose fear is this anyways?
Yeah, I don't know if he has a name. I'm like mole rat guy.
He have a name?
He had a name, but I can't remember for life of me what it was.
I know the doctor kept stereotyping him based on his species. That's all I remember.
Well, that's because he stereotyped himself based on his own species.
Yeah,
he just wanted to go home and get conquered again. Is that so much to ask?
Yeah, they did kind of run that home, didn't they?
Gibbous was the character's name, apparently.
Yes. Okay. I was still on the Horns of Nyman on the wiki, so I didn't have the character list up right away. Bad me. I know.
So my favorite scene then, I guess, since Bill's done with yours.
Yep.
Okay. Favorite scene. Trying to decide which one. You know what? Yeah. Set up the trap for the Minotaur so that the doctor can talk to it, and we immediately need to hide in a room. Doc into a room. Oh, hello. Talking and look at this sad clown. And immediately, don't talk to the clown. Shh. Thump, thump, thump. The sad clown just keeps sitting there.
Okay, so yours was the sad clown.
Sad clown room was amusing.
Okay. So I think mine was the quote talk unquote between the doctor and the Minotaur. And I think that was in the restaurant.
Was that the restaurant? It was one of the rooms, but it was like a really weird, like big fancy room.
It was either like a restaurant or a lounge or something.
I guess it would be closer to a lounge. Like it had a waterfall thing with a big glass thing in the middle, and Had
Mhm.
some goldfish and a couple other weird things. I think it still had a bed though, and had like a plethora of mirrors. It's like a
Well,
fancy suite or something
I think they
almost.
spent some of the time setting it up, but because I think the mirrors were
Oh
something.
yeah, like maybe they altered the room themselves. Yeah.
But yeah, I just liked that because it was one of those things where it's like, are they actually talking? Is the doctor using telepathy?
It was something. He was somehow communicating with it, and
Oh,
though
yeah,
we
I
couldn't
know,
hear it.
but you're asking yourself that as you're watching.
Right, and it's
hmm
and that's the thing with monsters, because they're like, oh yeah, the TARDIS will translate automatically, except when it's scary or not to or something.
Well, yeah. I think the idea is like it has to be a language that is translatable or something like that.
It just might be a
Or just
language the doctor happens to
yeah, or
know.
just it has to be in it has to be in the database of the TARDIS for it to be able to translate
Which
or
this
something
should
like that.
if they're related to the Nyman.
You would think, but
Yeah, but like I said, you're looking at that, asking yourself these questions. Is he using telepathy? Is he actually understanding what he's saying? You're
Mm-hmm.
just it's an intriguing scene. So I liked it.
hmm.
All right, so let's talk about what we dislike.
Thomas already
And
gave his, so back to Bill.
Yep.
Oh damn! I was gonna wait for Thomas's because
No, Thomas said his favorite was
Okay.
also his
Again, I
worst.
like yeah.
So my least favorite scene. I think I'm going to go with the one where they basically said, Rory, you're too bland of a character. The story's really not about you. Because, like, come on. He's a human being, for fuck's sake.
yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
It's disrespectful.
And they're wrong. They're flat out wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, Amy's faith is in the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Rory's faith is in Amy.
Right.
Yeah.
And they don't even bother to acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing is if he ever looked into a room, I feel it'd be easy enough because you've literally just done an episode that you could call back to.
You know what? Did we talk about this episode off the pod, like at some point without reviewing it? Because I feel like at some point this episode, I discussed it with somebody, either on the podcast or with somebody else, where I thought that the conclusion had been, yeah, Amy's faith is in Rory. I mean, Rory's faith is in Amy, and Amy's faith is in the doctor. But that is not what the episode concluded.
I don't recall the conversations, so
Yeah, I don't recall this.
not when I was around, at least.
Either that or I looked it up trying to make sense of the ending, and that's what somebody wrote.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Because I definitely did not get this episode the first time I watched it, because I think I was half paying attention.
Yeah, it's like
Bad
it's
Bill.
so interesting that you really could have easily had a room in this place for Rory, and all it is just the Amy from the previous episode.
Yeah.
Because that would absolutely be like a relatable fear that he has just experienced.
And if they had done that, it would have tied the season together exceedingly well.
Yeah.
Well, it tied the last couple of episodes together really well.
You would have had a feeling of continuity.
And
Moffat's whole concept was fuck continuity.
For that matter, Amy's room could have had, like, Let's Kill Hitler had a lot of stuff that would have fit into Amy's room more than just young Amy sitting and looking out the window.
Yeah.
Yeah, they missed the boat on so many levels.
Yeah.
All right, Matt.
Oh. Actually, I keep thinking that maybe there's something they could have done for the Doctor's Free Room too, but I'm not entirely convinced of it at the same time. There's like a lot of good ideas you could put in there, but there's also some where it's just like, eh.
I mean, the Doctor at this point could basically have an entire wing of this hotel
Actually,
dedicated to him.
that would be a really good room. He just walks in and just like every effing monstrosity in the entire galaxy just there waiting for him. And then maybe a few particular singled out people too.
Oh
Like
my
someone
God.
dressed like Rassilon,
know,
someone dressed like the
see-
Master.
Honestly, what would be kind of funny is if it was Adric.
Well, see, that's what I
Ooh.
was thinking. But it showing Adric would cause I think part of the ending was the Doctor losing faith in himself. And if there was a room with Adric in it, that might
Oh,
like
that
the
would
Doctor
cut him
wouldn't
out from underneath
Actually,
his own
yeah.
feet
The
so
Doctor-
quickly.
the Doctor wouldn't have been able to say, "I have faith in myself." He would have been like, "Oh fuck," and fallen to his knees.
Yeah, and the problem with Matt's thing of having every single monster in there, the Doctor would be more like, yeah, joke's on you. I'm not here with you. You're in here with me, you know?
Yeah.
Well, that would be him having faith in himself. And then after a few minutes, he would start saying, "Praise him."
Praise me. Yeah.
Slipping into his ego again, and then all of a sudden, as he's slipping into his ego, everything disappears, and then like all the people he's felt like he's ever wronged just suddenly show up, and just like, oh shit.
Yeah. Adric would be a good one. Sarah Kingdom would be a good one.
Susan.
Yeah.
He promised he'd come back. He has never come back.
At least not on screen, yeah.
For sure not on screen.
Yeah.
But you could just imagine, you know, just a...
Technically, you could even throw Tegan in there, because, God, her life turned into a
Jamie
shithole
Oh,
because of him.
yes. Yeah.
Oh, and
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of people that the Doctor's left behind. Sometimes not willingly, but left behind.
Yeah.
That would have been great to shake the Doctor's faith. Because, yes, the Doctor's faith would be in himself.
At least to some major degree, yes.
So, I'm not going to call it ego. Because, you know, it's not ego if you can back up what you preach. And the Doctor's been backing up what he's been preaching for, like, you know...
The better part of 50 years.
For, like, 1,000 years at this point.
In universe terms, over 1,000 years, yeah.
So yeah, you would have to remind him of his failures.
Yeah.
And of course, we don't know what's behind that door. You know what could be behind that door at this point? Gallifrey.
Oh, that too. At this point now, yeah.
That would be the biggest failure that he's ever had, as of this point. Yes.
Yeah, you just see the ruins of Gallifrey on fire and the Dalek ships in the sky, yeah.
And the Cloister Bell would have been the Gallifrey Cloister Bell, not the TARDIS Cloister Bell. So I could see that. But the Doctor has, you know, at this point got to almost to the point of acceptance. That would have crippled the Ninth Doctor.
Yeah, that would have brought the Ninth Doctor to his knees because he's still PTSD.
And it probably would have wounded the 10th Doctor pretty well. But at this point, he's come almost to the point of acceptance.
Yeah.
He's at the point of acceptance where he at least wants to bury it and forget about it.
Yep. The man who forgets, yeah.
That would have been a nice way to tie it into the end of with the 50th anniversary too.
Yeah, but remember, this is still the season before. So what
Yeah.
they were doing for the 50th anniversary hadn't been even remotely plotted at this point. Because remember, this was 2011. Season 7 started in 2012 and then drug into 2013. So it is still a good 2 years before they had to worry about the 50th anniversary.
Moffat. But yeah, I guess that covers my feeling of the failings of this episode for one scene.
Okay. So my least favorite scene is actually a corollary to my favorite scene. You have all this plan, you set it up, and then you protect the linchpin with the freaking coward.
Yeah.
It's like, you know he's going to fail. You should have known that from second one. Why the hell did you leave him with... You would have been better off leaving him unguarded.
Because then the plot couldn't have progressed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
but it's still plot stupid.
Yeah, it's an idiot plot for sure.
Yeah. I mean, also you could argue, why did the guy's voice coming through something else trick it when it should know where the original
Person
source
is,
of the voice is coming from?
Well, I noticed the sonic screwdriver was involved. So I'm thinking sonic shenanigans. Because he was speaking into the screwdriver, which was hooked into the device.
You mean the magic wand?
Yes.
Right.
The magic wand, which was somehow set to bounce biosignature. I don't know. Once again, it's one of the reasons the sonic screwdriver is overly powerful most of the time.
It's the reason why there's new versions of the sonic screwdriver, because we need to take away capabilities every once in a while because you keep abusing it.
Yeah. I forget when it stopped working on wood.
I don't know if it ever technically did. I mean, I know that's a Fourth Doctor thing.
Bounces back and forth too.
Yeah.
Wood doesn't come up often enough, anyways.
I think in I think in one of the episodes where there with possibly the 50th, or I don't know, maybe even after that, but at one point they do say something about having fixed it.
Well, the 50th, it takes all three doctors.
There's the three of them
using
have
their
the
sonics to do
conversation,
it.
but it's...
And then
Then
the
again,
door ends up being
I could
unlocked
entirely be mixing up the 3 settings line, which is not canon. And by not canon, I mean it's from a parody episode. For anybody watching that doesn't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I know you and Matt in particular do, and probably Thomas. but I wanted to be clear because I realized saying the C word on the internet is tantamount to standing over a bridge.
Over troubled waters?
Yeah.
All right. That just hit me as the plot stupid portion of the episode.
It was another weak spot, yeah.
All right. So, final thoughts.
I guess I feel like this episode is just sort of okay. Like there are bits I'm willing to just sort of mock, but otherwise just be like, whatever. But generally it's also like not good enough to really like push that up too much. I mean, the acting's good, and all that, but there is just a bunch of other things that I'm kind of like, that it goes from being like, well, at least it's good, to more like, it's okay. Of course, it's funny because it didn't occur to me until this rewatch that Gibbous was played by David Walliams, so we've had both him and Matt Lucas on Doctor Who.
Yeah, somebody was friends with them, so
Apparently.
Yeah, given, and it's funny because, like, as we've said, like, this would have been a perfect send off for at least that ending scene would have been a really damn good send off for, like, just okay, Amy and Rory are done. They can come back later if they want because they've just been pushed off the TARDIS rather than forced off through either death or whatever else. But nope. So honestly, I would even argue, I do rarely say this, but this is an episode that if you really wanted to, you could skip.
Mm-hmm.
all right, Bill.
So I'm glad you end with that skip thing because that's a perfect segue to what I feel is something worth talking about in this episode. Because we had 2 episodes in a row that are about breaking down this overwhelming faith in the Doctor, which is funny because I thought that's what the series 5 finale was about. But we all know Moffat really loves to drive a point home. But then the next episode, not counting the one with without the companions, the next the series finale, I mean, the 2 of them have lost their memories because it's this weird alternate universe. And then there might be a Christmas special. Oh yeah, the Christmas special, I think that they're not even in if I remember right.
Yeah, this would have been the Doctor, the Widow, the Wardrobe.
And then the next episode that they're in, they kind of undo all of that by basically the Doctor needs to come in and save Amy and Rory's marriage and bring them back on the TARDIS. And that sequence of episodes, it, like, just describing that in that way, it's really unnecessary. It's really self-defeating. And this whole idea of returning to the status quo all the time is really tiresome, which is really sucks because this episode could have been, as we've said multiple times now, it could have been a good opportunity for a nice, clean departure that they didn't do, and instead opted for the shit show that was the infertility plot. But I'm not here to rant about Asylum of the Daleks.
No, we did that our first episode.
Yes. Where was I? Oh yeah. So this episode actually, I thought it was kind of just like a 2.5, completely forgettable the first time I watched it back in like 2012 or so. But rewatching it, it's a little better than I thought it was. I think I had missed the opening, as sometimes happens. And I was spent a lot of it confused the first time. This time I wasn't really confused. There were some things that I think are nonsensical about the plot, but I was able to follow along. I do think it could have been performed a little better, especially since, as I mentioned, the Doctor really comes off as, oh yeah, I really hate this one species in particular, which could, like, after watching Classic Who, that could have been an episode where he meets a bunch of members of that species, learns about their culture, and then they wind up in this hotel, and he's like, okay, this is what just an obstacle that I have to deal with. And it wouldn't make the Doctor seem as mean-spirited as he sometimes does here.
But that's a tradition, Bill. Remember the 2 Doctors?
Yeah. Yep, there is the 2 Doctors. So yeah, that's this episode. They're better than I remembered, but not great.
All right.
So
Matt?
me, this is my first trip through this one. I will say that some of the imagery is interesting, and the concepts of the Minotaur and this prison hotel are interesting. But at the same time, I kind of feel like they might have been wasted, as well as a couple other things that were in the plot that just seemed attached on, and not even in a good way. It's a lot of good ideas, but they all seem to be wasted in their execution together. Seems to be what I'm getting out of this so far. So it's not terrible by any means, but it's not like something I feel like you necessarily need to see either.
All right, is that everything you have to say?
That pretty much summarizes it in a nutshell, yeah.
All right. So the God Complex, for me, is the final episode of what I refer to as the Forgettable Trio, and that's the last three episodes we saw. Night Terrors, The Girl Who Waited, The God Complex are the Forgettable Trio, because before that you have Let's Kill Hitler, which I have issues with, but you remember it. And after it, you have Closing Time, which I pretty much like. But these guys, I know they exist, and they just kind of get sandwiched together in my head. It could have been one long episode for all I remembered from them, except I thought it was basically mediocre. And that's kind of the God Complex in itself. It's a nice idea, and it has some nice visuals. But all in all, it just kind of hammers down the same point that we've had for the last couple of episodes. And you're just ready for it to move on. And by that, it's just completely and utterly...
Yeah, basically it's good ideas attached to a waste of time.
Mm-hmm. And like we've said, this would have been a decent send-off for Amy and Rory. I'm not going to say it would have been the greatest send-off, but it would have been decent.
It would be a Hail Mary compared to the ending they did get.
Yes.
Yeah.
The horrible mixed-up muddle that was Angels of Manhattan, this would have been far, far better. But instead, they choose to drag it on.
That seems to be Moffat in a nutshell, too. Just dragging it on.
Yep.
That's what created this podcast, when he kept dragging it on.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to have a good concept of endings. Anyway, let's rate this bitch. Let's get it out of the way. Or at least I will if I can get the frickin'... Oh, I am on the spreadsheet. That's why. I'm having brain tonight, me.
Pardon, Randy. He's having a moment.
My brain hurts.
We have to remove it, Mr. Gumby.
Okay, Thomas.
I was... It's interesting, because I was thinking whether I could give this a slight bump due to the acting, or if I'd bring it down, but nah, I think the nicest I can be is a 3.
3 flat. All right, Bill.
I looked at some of my past rankings to see whether episodes I liked similar to this were mostly a 3 or mostly a 3.5. I see most of Series 7 was a 3, and I think it fits well with a lot of those, so 3.0.
Matt.
I've been debating too, and I find this mediocre. So I have to actually agree with the 3 so far.
We have, I think, our first absolutely mediocre episode.
We have found the center of mediocrity, everybody.
So we're all right?
We're all right, because, yeah, we're all giving it a 3.
We're all right. Oh, wrong show.
So, 3.0, we'll put this at number 334 out of 385 things reviewed. It is on par with Revelation of the Daleks, Orphan 55, The Lazarus Experiment, Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, Deep Breath, The Beast Below, End of Time, and The Wheel in Space. It is better than Horns of Nyman, Aliens of London, World War III, Vampires in Venice, and Time of the Doctor. And is not as good as The Sea Devils, Planet of Fire, Survival, The Romans, The Invasion of the Dinosaurs, Asylum of the Daleks, and Vincent and the Doctor.
Oh, God, it's not as good as the episode that got this podcast started.
So there we go.
Do you feel that fire in your soul?
334 out of 385 things reviewed. That is all we have to say about the God Complex.
All right, so please let us know what you think in the comments. And if you agree with our rating, I can't really say ratings. Don't forget to like or dislike the video if you feel either of those ways. And make sure to subscribe on YouTube to get our weekly exports, or follow us on Twitch to get our streams every Wednesday night.
All right, next week. For our 400th episode, we're going to take a look at what we think the best episodes are for each Doctor. You know, I think we've done this before. Well, if we have, it's been a while anyway. We've got new opinions and new episodes to look at.
And technically new Doctors.
Yeah. It's AUP's Best Episodes Per Doctor special. See you next week.
Mediocre.